Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here with you today at the end of a week where I've been talking about wisdom from the book of James. And I'm going to finish today with a couple of verses from the second chapter, beginning with verse 14. Here's what it says. What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith, but don't show it by your actions? Can that kind of faith save anyone? Suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food or clothing, and you say, "Goodbye, have a good day, stay warm, and eat well." But then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What good does that do? So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. Well, James here addresses a classic conundrum, as they say. Faith and actions, believing and doing. Now, it's easy to believe. Well, in a lot of things it is. I don't know that it's easy to believe that God forgives my sin, because if it were easy, I guess everybody would do it, but that doesn't happen. But it's easy to believe. Doesn't take any effort, doesn't take anything special. Let me give you an example. Wherever you're listening to this, if you're in a house or a building, almost every room has a little switch, on mine it's over there, that I flip on and off to turn the lights on and off. Now, when I walk into the room, I believe that that switch works. I believe that that's the way I get the lights on. Now, what have I had to do to believe that? Not a thing. Somebody told me that. Or after all my years, I've kind of gotten used to knowing what light switches are. But until I turn that switch, till I actually move it, I don't have electricity and I don't have lights. Now, I'll give you another illustration. Those of you who are really good with cars and mechanics, you'll have a hard time appreciating this. But my knowledge of cars and how they work is really pathetic. I, I am not mechanically inclined. I've never worked on my car except to change the oil when I was younger. I wouldn't know how to do that. Now, I know how to do a lot of things that maybe you don't know, but cars, motors, forget it. But I do know that if I get in the car and I either turn the key or nowadays push the button, that's going to start the car. I believe that. I don't know how it works. I mean, I know it has something to do with the starter, but beyond that, I've exceeded my knowledge. But until I actually turn the key or push the button, the car doesn't start. And what happens when I do that and it doesn't work? You see, it's easy to believe. It's harder to do something. So James is saying here, not believing is better than doing or doing is better than believing. He's saying you have to do both. You have to do both. You have to believe that God has raised Jesus from the dead and that he forgives your sins. But then you have to act on that belief. You have to believe God can change you, but then you have to act like a changed person. It doesn't do any good just to believe it. It also doesn't do any good just to do it. You see, a lot of people think that all they got to do is say a prayer and they're saved and everything's wonderful with God. And there are a lot of other people who believe they don't have to do that. They just have to be a nice person and everything's wonderful with God. And James is telling us here, no, neither one of those is correct position. We have to believe, but then we have to demonstrate our belief by doing something. He gives the illustration here. Suppose somebody doesn't have any food, doesn't have any clothing. Maybe you've seen somebody like that. And you go past them and you say, well, goodbye, have a good day, stay warm and eat well. And you walk on by. Is that person going to stay warm and eat well because you said that? No. Is that person going to stay warm and eat well because you believed that that's what they would do? No. How is that person going to stay warm and eat well? Well, it's going to take two things. One, it's going to take clothing to stay warm. And two, it's going to take food to eat. And if they don't have it, they can't use it. And James is saying here, if you have that and don't share it, you weren't any much better. Hear that? We have to live our lives that reflect our beliefs. Now, people who don't care about people, they do that. They believe that they're the only ones that are important and they live their life accordingly. They don't help people. They don't give things out. They don't have any sympathy for someone. They just fly through life, say, well, that's their fault. Well, that might work in this world, but it's not going to work when you get to the next one. And it's a terrible reference to have when you're looking for an explanation. James wants us to realize, and I want you to think about how much good can you do because you believe that the Son of God has changed your life. Now, if you don't believe that he's changed your life, well, ask him to do that. See what happens. But don't just say it. You got to do it. So I hope you think about that over the weekend. I'll be back next week, share some other ideas. I appreciate you listening. I know you don't have to take the time. And I do want to say that if you have a need or a prayer concern, let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks so much for listening. God bless you. I'll be back. I'll be back on Monday. Take care.